Yes, distinguished colleagues, the nominee is before us. We'll yield the floor to you to give us a summarized resume and any other thing you wish the public to know. The floor is yours.
Mr. Senate President, His Excellency Senate President, leadership of the House, distinguished senators. Mr. President, sir, I'd like to seek your indulgence to quickly acknowledge the three senators from my state. Senator Tokunbo Abiru, who is representing my own constituency of Ekpe local government area. Senator Idayat Adebule, representing the Lagos West District, and Senator Wasiu Eshinlokun, representing the Lagos Central District. On behalf of the people of Lagos State, I'd like to say thank you to you for the excellent work you're doing for the state and for the country. I also would like to thank President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for this distinct opportunity and privilege in nominating me to serve as a minister for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I don't take this privilege lightly, neither will ever take it with levity. Good afternoon, distinguished senators. My name is Dr. Maruf Olatunji Alausa from Ekpe local government area of Lagos State. I was born on the 16th day of April, 1967. I completed my early childhood education at Nazareth Convent School, where I completed my primary and secondary school education. I finished my secondary school education in 1996. Then I was admitted to University of Lagos in 1996. Completed my university education in 1993. Then between 1993 and 1994, I did my housemanship. And between 1994 and 1995, I did my youth service in Plateau State. Shortly after that, I proceeded to the United Kingdom to start my postgraduate education. I then went to the United States. I started my residency in internal medicine at the famous Cook County Hospital in Chicago. I did my residency in internal medicine between the year 1997 to 2000, and upon completion of my residency, I was appointed to the prestigious position of chief resident. As a chief resident, I coordinated the residency training of well over 250 residents. After I finished the tenure of my chief residency position, I was appointed to as an assistant professor and clinical instructor of medicine to one of the largest teaching hospitals in Chicago, Rush Medical Center. As a clinical instructor and as an assistant professor of medicine, my job then was to really train medical students on their clinical skills. I was assistant professor for about 2 years. I then proceeded to further my training. In 2000, I went to start my specialty training in nephrology. Nephrology is a specialty of medicine which is dedicated to caring for patients with wide kidney diseases and hypertension. I finished my specialist training in 2004. Today, I'm American board certified in internal medicine and nephrology. I'm also well published. I've published several peer-reviewed journals across various the broad section area of medicine, basic medical sciences and clinical sciences. Several of my research papers are very highly cited by other researchers. When I finished my fellowship, my specialist training in 2004, as a firm believer in private sector driven economy, I founded Dialysis Care Center to focus in providing access to care to underserved community in the United States of America. Today, Dialysis Care Center is operating hundreds of multiple clinics in various underserved communities in the United States. I'm proud to say Dialysis Care Center is one of the top 10 dialysis providers in the United States today. But for all I've done in providing and continue to provide access to care in the United States, I never forgot my home. I continue to advance the delivery of care in my country. In 2001, I was one of myself and 3 other Lagosians facilitated the donation of over hundreds of millions of dollars worth of hospital equipment to the government of Lagos State. These equipments were donated by the government of Cook County in Illinois. Our able Senator Okweme, a majority leader, Senator Okweme Bamidele, can attest to this. He was a cabinet member in Lagos State then. Also in 2000, myself and 3 other Lagosians supported a very unique healthcare initiative that was initiated by our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was then the governor of Lagos State, Jigi Bola. Myself and 3 other Lagosians facilitated the donation of over 500,000 pairs of reading glasses to the Lagos State government. These glasses were donated by Walgreens Pharmaceutical, the largest pharmaceutical retailer in the world. My work in advancing healthcare delivery in Nigeria was not limited to Lagos State alone. Over the past 2.5 decades, I have participated in hundreds of medical missions to several parts of the country, directly delivering care to underserved communities in the remotest part of our country. I also have a foundation that is funding several of these medical missions. My work in advancing care in Nigeria is not limited to direct patient care. On the policy front, in 2015, I was invited by the then former President Muhammadu Buhari Presidential Transition Council on Health as a subject matter expert to help develop a policy document on how we can adequately fund our education. I'm seeing some answers from the Senator. Just give me 1 minute. More recently, up to about 2 weeks ago, I was a member of the President Bola Tinubu Presidential Advisory Council on Health. I worked with 4 other brilliant and very dedicated Nigerians. We've developed a health policy blueprint that this current administration intends to use in radically transforming our healthcare sector. Beyond the policy area, I'll quickly go to what I've done in the government sector. I was privileged to be appointed the chairman of Igbobi National Orthopedic Hospital Igbobi. Within 2 short years of being the chairman, together with the board members, we undertook expansive infrastructural upgrade in the hospital. We built few of the things we did then. We built a brand new modular theater with 8 surgical operating suites. We built an intensive care unit, the largest intensive care unit in the country. We built a 32-suite amenity ward. We engaged in a public-private partnership to bring the best diagnosis services to the hospital. I'll stop here because I saw some of the senators are raising their hands. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Okay. In conclusion, as a firm advocate of private sector-driven healthcare, I believe we need larger participation of the private sector in our healthcare delivery system. What currently exists today, where about 60% of the healthcare expenditure is out of pocket. Patients are paying out of pocket. This is not sustainable. We need to engage the private sector to quickly help in advancing early transformation of our healthcare system. This will actually stem what we're seeing now, this huge medical tourism, where we're spending about $2.5 billion every year. Thank you.
Senator Wasiu.
Thank you, the Senate President, Your Excellency Senator Godwill Akpabio. I remain Wasiu Eshinlokun Soni, representing the people of Lagos Central, by extension Lagos State and Nigeria. Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. Confucius once said, education breeds confidence. Confidence breeds hope. Hope breeds peace. This is Dr. Tunji Alausa from Lagos State. At peace with himself, not proud but not arrogant. One of us is suave, urbane, cerebral, dynamic, resourceful, and kind-hearted gentleman. Dr. Alausa has been very helpful in the health sector of Lagos State. Let me say that the various health missions the Eco Club were undertaken from US to Lagos and other parts of Nigeria. It was part and parcel of those health missions. You will recall, sir, and I'll quote Martin Luther King. He says, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what have you done for others? In that regard, I will say that Dr. Alausa has used his knowledge, expertise to serve the people of Lagos State pro bono without collecting a dime. He has been also a member of the Presidential Campaign Committee on Health, where 4 of them, work on the health policy of the present government. Dr. Alausa is well known to us. Those of us from Lagos State, starting from Senator Abiru, we were with Senator Abiru in his office, and we found him worthy, and we concluded that we're going to support him for this position. Let me say that today, I want to invoke the principle of reciprocity. Our friendly disposition to other nominees from your various states. We've been quiet, observant, and we've not asked any injurious question. So, most distinguished senator, I commend to you your support for our own Dr. Moruf Olatunji Alausa. Thank you very much.
Distinguished Senator Abiru.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, sitting as the chair, and my distinguished colleagues. I congratulate the nominee, and perhaps I don't think I have much to say again than to queue behind my brother, distinguished Senator Eshiloku, that I fully support and also appeal to my colleagues to support the nomination of Dr. Moruf Alausa. But I mustn't just take my seat just like that, because again, Dr. Moruf Alausa happens to be my constituent. He belongs to the Lagos East senatorial constituency that I superintend as the senator representing, and particularly from Ekpe local government. Like he had said by himself, he's an accomplished physician, you know, with specialty in chronic diseases such as kidney and hypertension. And equally, he's over 30 years of practice. You know, he has proven to be an accomplished professional, both in the private and the public sector. And what is more intriguing is the fact that the way and manner that he had conducted his practice, he has also made provision to also serve the underserved, that is, people who cannot afford Medicare. And also he's made tremendous contributions in terms of research work and publications that will continue to enrich his profession. And of course, he was also a member of the Presidential Advisory Council, particularly under the health subsector that ushered in part of the plans of the new, of our current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. I also will appeal to all my colleagues to fully support his candidature as a minister of the Federal Republic. Mr. President, I so submit. Thank you.
Point of order? Order what?
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Karimi Sunday Steve. I represent Kogi West from Kogi State. Order 55, Rule 13. Senators shall attend the session of the Senate properly dressed in non-traditional and formal attire. Senator Wadada. You are not properly dressed.
No time.
He's not properly dressed.
Senate, distinguished colleagues, distinguished colleagues, distinguished Senator Karimi, your point of order is sustained. Distinguished Senator Abdul Fattah.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, sitting as the chair, Dr. Maruf, my name is Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari, Oyo North. I was going through your CV, and I'm impressed. Today, in the United States of America, where I know you know the place very well, over 35% of the resident doctors there, foreign doctors, are Nigerians, which means we have the manpower, they have the brain. Number one, what are you going to do to stop the brain moving, migrating from Nigeria to America or Europe? Two, the facility in Nigeria today are not there. What are you going to do in case you find yourself in the Ministry of Health to bring our health care, even if you can't match them 100%, but to the level where you have the confidence to see a doctor in Nigeria? More than 80% of my colleagues here, even ordinary headache, they would rather stay home instead of going to the hospital. because the fear is that the equipment are not there. But we know we have the people that are capable to do the job. If you find yourself there, what are the things you can do to retain them? Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Dismissed Senator Sadiq Umar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as chair, my distinguished colleagues, Mr. Nominee, congratulations, and like it's been said, your work so far is acknowledged and we appreciate it. But I have a concern, which is that I've always insisted, that to develop this country, there are key sectors we need to focus on, which is education and healthcare. They are the key two sectors to develop Nigeria. Now, in the health sector, we are so concerned that the Constitution recognizes health to are falling under concurrent list, which means both at federal, state, and in fact, the local government, everybody is intervening in the healthcare sector. This has led to so many duplications, confusions, and so much uncoordinated activities going on in that sector. Now, this National Assembly wanted to help this system to be sure that there is universal health coverage. And we passed a bill where 1% of the CRF is dedicated, just because we want to make sure health gets to the lowest level. But till now, Mr. Nominee, the big problems still remain. And all the grammar we speak about healthcare, the whole thing ends up with the outcomes, what we are interested in. And the outcome, as we speak today, is as bad as maternal mortality rate is still over 814 by 100,000 live births. Infant mortality rate, very bad, 70 for every 1,000 live births. Under 5 mortality rate, very bad, over 100, about 104 by every 1,000 live births. So, what are we going to do differently? Because we've been going around this. State governments are making effort, local governments are making effort, but the coordination is not there. What are you going to do differently? Because this is the key to our success. That coordination, to be sure that we bring down these indicators slowly, so that we can have healthy citizens, that if we give good education, we'll be productive and we'll be on our way to developing the society. Thank you.
Dismissed Senator Alero.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting the chair, my distinguished colleagues. Mr. Nominee, let me start by saying that I'm very impressed with your CV. I went through it. We are very proud that a Nigerian could attain this kind of achievement. So congratulations. Having said that, Mr. President, let me start with the famous dictum that health is wealth. A healthy nation is also a wealthy nation. Primary health care, secondary health care, tertiary health care are the responsibilities of local government, state government, and federal government, respectively. Unfortunately, the primary health care and secondary health care are not functioning well. And tertiary health care has been overburdened. The heavy congestion of patients in our tertiary healthcare institutions. If eventually you are assigned to the Ministry of Health, what can you do to ensure that primary health care, secondary health care are shared among the different arms of government, so that each section of the healthcare will function efficiently and effectively. Lack of healthcare is making Nigerians to go for medical tourism, particularly in Europe, Egypt, and India. As a professional of international refuge, what can you do to reduce medical tourism in Nigeria?
billions of dollars has been spent by Nigerians. While we have so many Nigerians, as said by my colleagues, in Europe, America, and the Middle East, that has happened in the healthcare in various countries. Thoroughbred professionals like you, what can we do to bring them so that we will stop medical tourism? Thank you, Mr. President.
Dismissed Senator Tambua.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, my colleagues, the nominee, let me join my colleagues in congratulating you for accepting to come back home and serve our dear country in this capacity, despite all of your achievements and what possibly you may continue to enjoy if you continue to serve elsewhere outside Nigeria. Being a professional, and in view of the situation we are facing in Nigeria today, whereby so many medical personnel and professionals in other fields are leaving the country for greener pastures. If, peradventure, you are appointed as Minister of Health, what measures and initiatives are you going to introduce to arrest the movement and mass of our professionals outside Nigeria and bringing them back home so that we together can turn around our Medicare and medical system in Nigeria? Thank you very much.
Dismissed Senator Abbas Wakili.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Aminu Abbas, Adamawa Central. Mr. Nominee, my question is related to the last two questions, but I want to put it in a different way. There is argument that health tertiary institutions shouldn't be run by government, should go private. And those proponents of this private sector participation are saying that it will reduce the brain dry and as well as medical tourism. Now, if you hold this saying and you want it to go private, how will you now advise the government vis-a-vis the health insurance coverage of Nigerians? Thank you.
Dismissed Senator Yaradua.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Abdul Aziz Musa Yaradua, representing the good people of Katsina Central. I'm from Katsina State. Dr. Maruf Tunji Alausa, I want to congratulate you for being nominated by our most respected president. And I've seen you have a very rich CV. You know, some of us are locally trained here, but from your CV, you are based in the United States, and I've seen that you have been named one of the America's best physicians in 2007, 2012, and 2020. if you are confirmed by this Senate and you are appointed to be the Minister of Health, one of the challenges we are facing in this country right now in our medical or in our public hospitals is that the medical ethics that you know, which is very efficient both in Europe and the United States and other developed nations, where patients and medical practitioners are very, very careful to ensure that they don't make mistakes. In the event a patient dies, usually there will be a medical board. Here in Nigeria, a lot of people die in our hospitals due to negligence of doctors and some other medical practitioners, both in our public hospitals and the private hospitals. And no medical board is constituted to investigate this type of issues, except if probably the patient is a highly placed person. What will you do if you find yourself as a Minister of Health to ensure that our public hospitals and the private hospitals abide by these medical ethics? Number two, I have seen in your CV that you are a certified nephrologist and a kidney expert. Though I'm a layman, but I think most of our public hospitals, I don't think we have efficient kidney centers. You can see that most of our people in Nigeria here travel abroad if they have patients with kidney problems. Right now, one of our own, the former Deputy Senate President, Senator Ike Ikweremadu, who, because of his daughter in search of help, traveled to UK. Today, we all know where he is. I believe if there are efficient kidney centers in Nigeria, probably he wouldn't have traveled abroad to seek for medical attention for his daughter. So my question is, if you become the Minister of Health, what will you do to ensure, being a kidney expert, to ensure that we have efficient kidney centers so that Nigerians in the future will not have to travel abroad? Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, so many people want to ask questions. So because of that, so you won't lose a track of the questions. Let's give him an opportunity to answer, and thereafter others can ask. Please.
Thank you, distinguished senators. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, distinguished senators. I'm very happy, quite impressed with the variety of questions that have been posed to me. This just vindicates my impression of this august house, that we're very, very passionate, dedicated Nigerians are assembled to really move our country forward. Most of these questions are actually, they fall within one ring. We don't have a healthcare system now. It's really suboptimal. Except for the question that Senator Yaradua asked on liability insurance issue, I'll address that later. And the other question from Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari on the JAPA syndrome. I'll come to those two. But the other questions falls within one main category of what we have now is not working the way it should. I'm a fervent believer in private sector driven healthcare economy. That is how we can fix it. We need a very good payer system. If you don't have a payer system, you cannot fix this healthcare system. If we continue to do what we're doing now, where the larger chunk of the funding is coming from government, they say if you do the same thing, don't ever expect to see a different result. You will see the same result. We need a robust payer system. I would like to commend the 9th Assembly. They did something very futuristic. They passed 2 landmark bills: the expanded National Health Insurance Act and the provision for the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. This is really these two bills we can really use it to create a linchpin, a launching pad, how we can build a very robust payer system. What we now need to do is to encourage international insurance companies to come into the country to support, to complement these small, scattered third-party payers that we have today. Big multinational companies like United Health, Humana, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois, they will come. We have the population. Once we start getting these international companies to come, they will bring in the technology, funding, robust platform to complement what we have. What we would quickly see is that we will have a private sector where we have a huge sum of money going into the pool, and then the National Health Insurance Scheme can now begin to function as a regulator of the private health insurance sector, and then act as the operator of the government part of the scheme. Because we already have the Basic Health Provision Fund that has dedicated a pool of money to vulnerable population. Young kids, infants, mothers, elderlies. So we can use that money to fund those vulnerable groups. So what we would quickly get to, we will have what operates in America today, where you have the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, taking care of the vulnerable group, and you have robust private payer system taking care of the other people. Once we've done that, we now have enough resources coming into our system. What we're worried now about JAPA syndrome, doctors going abroad would naturally start to get better. I'm a physician, and I'm not trying to be very partial here, but I know with certainty, anybody that trains to be a doctor wants to serve humanity. Care for their patient. It's not about money alone, poor economy, but they don't have the adequate infrastructure to care for their patient. It is very, very frustrating. And that's why we see this massive outward migration of doctors out of the country. We need to fix our healthcare infrastructure, and beyond that, compensate our physicians adequately. We also, to now begin to address this JAPA syndrome of people going out, once you adequately compensate your physicians, fix infrastructure, you provide enabling environment for them to work. Now, we also have to start engaging our diaspora doctors. We engage them to come. Once the right environment is created, they will come. A lot of people we want to serve our country. Now, beyond that, we also need to quickly increase the pool of the doctors we're producing. We have about 50 medical schools in the country. Government can provide special funding to these medical schools to double the number of doctors that are being produced. So, on that. Now, I would like to quickly talk on a very, very important, Senator Alausa, sorry, you said something about how can we get the sub-national government to take care of the primary and secondary health care system. Now, the federal government cannot force the local government beyond the federal funds being allocated. The federal government cannot force them to do what they have to do. But what is lacking here is there's the National Council of Health, which should be a meeting of the federal minister and the governors, where really health policy issues should be discussed. This council is not functional. They meet probably once a year or twice a year. This is not optimal. The National Council of Health should be really re-engaged to serve its purpose. And that's why we can get the sub-national government to do their role, to do what they need to do in terms of primary care and secondary care. Now, Senator Yaradua, you asked a very important question of the way medical liability. Now, literally, there's no regulation. Anybody can just, any healthcare provider can just kill a patient. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. There's literally no consequence. We can't operate a healthcare system like that. We need to set up, like what obtains abroad, quality regulatory boards at the federal and at the state level. These quality regulatory boards would actually begin to credential and certify healthcare facilities, and patients who felt they haven't been treated well can report to those boards, and then the medical practitioner license will be withdrawn, will be suspended. Once that begins to happen, people will be accountable for their actions. That's one thing that is lacking and we need to do. Also, you said something that is very passionate to my heart. This is what I do every day: lack of kidney care centers here, namely dialysis clinics and transplantation service in the country. You know, it's about you don't have the funding. Averagely, one session, even in Nigeria today, one session of dialysis cost about 25,000 naira. If you have to do at least, at standard you do 3 times a week, Nigeria they do twice a week. That's 50,000 naira a week. In a month, 200,000 naira. Even if you're a multi-millionaire and continue to do this, you will expend your money. One of the major causes of bankruptcy in the world is lack of health insurance coverage. Once we now have a robust payer system where the insurance pay for the dialysis, they pay for transplant, clinics will spring up. This is business, they follow where the money is. We can now begin, what we have now, our healthcare sector is only contributing less than 2.5% to our GDP. We need to really invite more private involvement, where we can quickly increase year by year contributing GDP by 5%. If we're able to do that, in 4 years, we can get our GDP to GDP to about 22%, where we have the health sector contributing to it. Today, in America, 22% of the GDP there, the healthcare accounts for 22% of GDP. That translates into $3.3 trillion spent. If we're able to do the same thing here, we can quickly bring in a lot of money into the healthcare sector, and what will happen, we'll create a healthcare sector that is even bigger than the oil and gas sector. And what will happen, compared to oil and gas, healthcare sector, it has a heavy need for manpower. What we can quickly do, if we get to that level, now we will engage a lot of young unemployed citizens coming into the labor force, getting decent job, paying government taxes. We can do this. We just have to have focused leadership to get this done. I hope I've answered all the questions.
Not totally. I see the hand of distinguished Senator Idiot. She's representing Lagos. Maybe there is something you did in Lagos that she wants to bring forth.
Your Excellency, the Senate President, distinguished colleagues, before you is Dr. Tunji Alausa, a health practitioner of decades of experience. If confirmed, Dr. Alausa will be an asset in the balance sheet of Nigeria. And I will listen to him. He has explained to us all of his exploits outside of this country, in the private sector and the public sector. And I have no doubt in my mind that Dr. Tunji has proved to all of us that he has what it takes to run the Health Ministry if confirmed. Distinguished senators, I recommend Dr. Tunji Alausa for your confirmation and plead for the understanding of all the senators. And I take the leave of the President of the Senate to please allow Dr. Tunji Alausa to take the leave of the Senate. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, just in case there is something that happened in the Southeast so that we don't marginalize Southeast. Distinguished Senator Nweboyi, your hand has been up.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Dr. Alausa, from your records, you may be the next health minister. And if that happens, I want to bring your attention to two things. One, if you go through our pharmaceutical stores across the nation, 50% of the drugs there are fake drugs. What can you do to avert this, in knowledge of the fact that NAFDAC is an agency under Federal Ministry of Health? Number two, medical profession today is being overtaken by quacks more than any other profession in Nigeria. As a health minister, what can you do to stop this menace in view of the sensitive nature of the medical profession? Because when you go to the rural areas, you see those that have a community health certificate conducting surgery, and in most cases leads to loss of life. As a health minister, how can you tackle this? Thank you.
Senator Nweboyi, you actually spoke my mind, because I was waiting for distinguished senators to ask him about the activities of quacks. That even as we speak now, 5 people must have died today as a result of the activities of quacks. Nurses are doing surgery in private domains. Even people, dispensers in the chemist are also giving injections. And a lot of people are dying. I've had a personal family experience in 2019, and I was going to ask him, so outside the fake drugs, the issue of quackery in the system, but there is one question that has not yet been asked, so I don't need to be the one to ask. So let me give the opportunity to Senator Kalia Dahawa, and I think Senator Kalia, you are also a doctor. You are a doctor. Okay, let me see whether you ask that question. If you don't ask, I'll ask, then he will close.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, Dr. Alausa, I just want to ask you a straight question. And I'm asking you as a doctor, and a private doctor for that matter. One of the biggest problems we are having is the leadership don't want to face the truth and face the doctors, in my opinion. There is a report of World Bank, I think it's of 2017, and I tried to corroborate it yesterday, and I found that they said in our urban areas, 80% of the private hospitals are owned by doctors working in government practices, receiving salary of government, and at the same time operating private hospitals. And by so doing, you have a situation whereby the private is no good, the government is no good. Because you cannot divide your attention and have 100% output. Will you be able, if you are appointed Minister of Health, to face these challenges head on, so that all this quackery that is happening in our hospitals and in our other places will be taken head on, so that at least something can be done to save the situation? Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you, distinguished Senator. Senator Neda, I've seen you. I've seen Senator Dankwambo. But Senator Dankwambo, your question may be related to the financials. So go ahead.
Thank you, the Senate President. Let me start by congratulating the nominee and also to congratulate him for having this very nice CV. My question, sir, the nominee was given opportunity in the last administration to be one of the top advisors on health. And today, when you go around our federal teaching hospitals and federal medical centers, the situation is very bad and requires very urgent attention of the government. When I was elected, I think the first people to meet up with me are the people from the Federal Teaching Hospital, Gombe. The situation is so critical. People are just sitting there. The equipments are in bad shape. The environment is not good. And delivery of health services are challenged. So I don't know what motivates you to come back. But what will you do different now to ensure service of health service delivery is different going forward from now? Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Onawu.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, sitting as chair. Dr. Alausa, congratulations for your nomination. My name is Senator Mohammed Ogoshi Onao. I represent Nasarawa South. I am bothered by the spate of serious life-threatening cases as a result of accidents or gunshot wounds and life-threatening issues that are taken to hospitals that doctors or nurses will refuse to attend to such patients because there is no police report. I know you said just a while ago that doctors want to serve humanity when they decide to go into the profession. Now, if an accident happens in an environment where there is no police at hand and the patient is dying, should this patient die because there is no police to give a report? What can you do to forestall such? Thank you.
I think that is a very good question. There are a lot of people with gunshot wounds, not through their faults, sometimes as a result of stray bullets, are dying in various hospitals because the hospitals have refused to treat them, waiting for police report. That if he's given an opportunity in the health sector, what will he do to stop the loss of lives of innocent citizens? We will allow you to answer that. But I just want to add one more question. If you are given an opportunity, what will you do to assist the poor people who are daily being detained in various hospitals in the country after treatments? A lot of poor people who cannot afford 2,000 naira, 1,000, 5,000 to pay for medical treatments are being detained for days in various hospitals in the country. And I know this, if you are one of those who move around, particularly during your birthdays and you try to go around the hospitals, you'll be shocked that some people after delivery of children, they are not able to pay the full bill and they are being detained with the newborn babies in various hospitals in the country. And these are federal medical centers, federal hospitals and state hospitals. They are not allowed to go home. They are told to stay there until they pay. Is there any form of arrangement that you will do that can cater to settle the medical bills of these very poor people who are suffering in the hospitals not through their faults? That's the question. And the Senate President, you may add the question so that he can answer, because if we can't solve all our health problems today, we have to take other people.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations, Mr. Nominee. Still on the plight of our referral hospitals. Most of the cases, medical cases that our people go through in this country are the likes of malaria, colds, and so on, that can be treated at the primary healthcare centers or clinics. But yet, most of these people that have this kind of medical challenges go to referral hospitals, especially in the cities. They go to the teaching hospitals, thereby overstretching the capacity of the referral hospital. Whereas it's only cases that are complicated are supposed to be, taken to the referral hospitals. So what are you going to do to change this trend? Because we are overstretching our referral hospitals, all right? So what are you going to do if eventually you are confirmed and maybe the president feels that you should be the Minister of Health? What are you going to change the trend? Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished senators. I'm very, very excited with these impressive questions. Senator Barrow, I'll take your question first. Absolutely, the tertiary hospitals are very highly overburdened. And it's just because the primary healthcare centers are literally non-functional. Senator Alausa alluded to that. What we need to do, we need to go beyond just building infrastructures. What we're saying is, we built one primary care center in every local government in the country. We're going to double it to 2. And now we have, I was at the presentation as part of my work on the Presidential Advisory Council, meeting the CEO, the Director General of the National Primary Healthcare Agency. He told me, I said, we have 10,000 primary healthcare centers in the country today. Less than 30% of these centers are functional. So they're there, but they're deserted. No community health worker, no nurses, no physician there. But once we begin to really realign our priorities, we get this, what we have today, we don't need to build anymore. Let's be honest with our people. It's not the structure, it's what goes in there that matters. Once we begin to adequately equip this, what we have now, provide the needed personnel there, Senator Barrell, the people will go there. If I live in Castina, city of Castina today, there's a primary care center that's 5 miles from my house, and I know if I go there at 9 p.m., I'll meet a healthcare provider there. I'll go there as a citizen of Castina. I will not drive 2 hours to go to the city to go to a teaching hospital. So what we need to do, we define our priorities, get this, what we have now, get them functional. And we can do that. We just need focused leadership to get this done. Now, I'm going to go to the question of the Senate President about people being detained. After, this is really very pathetic. It's sad. But then, the way to get this done is to have a payer system. And today, the basic health care provision fund can actually provide for those patients, but it's not being operated well. The Senate has done its own. You've passed this fund. You've passed. It's a percentage of the federal budget, but it's not being managed. The National Health Insurance Agency they're not managing this fund well. So there's already a solution for that. This kind of patient can get rolled into this program that we already have that are existing. But there's so much disconnection in the way those 2 programs are being managed.
Because the public will be very interested in what you are saying. The question is information dissemination. Now, you are saying that the Senate had already provided a solution by passing a bill that was signed into an act, providing, what do you call it?
Yeah, the bill is the Basic Health Care Provision Fund. The funds are there, and that in the fund, let me tell you how the fund was apportioned. 55% of the fund is meant to. 55% of that fund is meant to go to the National Health Insurance Agency, while about 40% of that fund goes to the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and about 5% to the National Emergency Management Agency. But the way those funds are being managed, nobody knows.
Okay. Now, if you are given an opportunity to be a Minister of Health or to work in the health sector, how will you manage the fund? What modalities will you put in place? Want to even let the farmer and the poor people in Nigeria to know that there is succor provided by government through legislation, and that those funds are actually there to assist them instead of they are being detained in hospitals weeks and months after their surgery and after deliveries. What will you do differently to make sure that the public is, 1, aware, and 2, impacted by these funds?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Fixing this problem is actually quite easy. is just to build synergy, but before then, aggressive orientation and education of the public to let them know of the availability of this fund. And then when I say build synergy, we can now get the National Health Insurance Agency that has a large pool of this money to now begin to enroll patients like this. Now, if a patient gets to the hospital today, if they don't have coverage, they know the fund is there, they can apply for emergency health care insurance coverage. And we will mandate the National Health Insurance Agency to approve the coverage within 48 hours, once they've gotten the biometrics of the patient. And once that's done, once that patient is now able to provide evidence of insurance coverage to the hospital, they know they can get their money from the National Health Insurance Agency. Very simple.
Apparently, we can't keep you forever. But I would think that you should also involve the legislators, House of Representatives and Senators, and you should bring out guidelines and share those guidelines with us. So when we go back home, we also educate our constituents and give them those forms to fill and for them to have an idea that such succor is in existence to assist the poorest poor, because it will also save them from embarrassments and death. Then, my final question, which is actually supposed to come from the floor, but it did not come, is that today, many doctors in the employment of the federal government and state governments abandon the general hospitals, abandon the federal government institutions for their own private hospitals. And they also divert. Oh, has he answered? He has answered? He has answered? Okay. But in addition, allegations abound that sometimes equipment provided by federal government find their way into the private clinics of the hospital, of the doctors. So they are getting monthly salaries, but their private clinics are booming, while the government hospitals are empty and patients are dying. What will you do differently to change the orientation so that Nigerians can get the benefit of the funds that federal government continually put into these hospitals and also the state governments?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would actually, it's about the same question that the distinguished senator on the Hall there asked about the role of these doctors having dual interest. They go, work in the public hospital and go to the private hospital to work. Their loyalty is divided. Now, Mr. President, you've added a third tripod to it on the fact that these doctors, beyond abandoning their work, they also use government equipment to go and do their private work. There are lots of problems here. We don't have standard policy and procedures in place to discipline this physician. And that's what the senator said, that the government or NMA, they're very reluctant in confronting the doctor. We have to. They have to be held accountable. That's what happens everywhere to any profession. You have to be held accountable. If you're not held accountable, you do whatever you want. We don't have, and that's why we have to build a robust regulatory body that will hold all these doctors accountable. A member of a senator or an House of a rep member or state assembly member can, if they are considering go to complain, exact the complaint that's coming to you, Mr. President, they can call the regulatory agency. This is what I'm seeing in my hospital, in my district in Iyo. Doctors are not there. They abandon the place, they take equipment. The regulatory agency will come, unbiased, investigate. If those allegations are found to be true, the doctors will be sanctioned. Their license will get suspended. No doctor, no professional wants their license to be suspended. That's a pathway to feeding, and that's what separates you from lunatism. you want to protect that license. It's making people accountable. That's how we can begin to fix problems like this. Now, I need to quickly answer Senator Mohammed Onaho, distinguished Senator Mohammed Onaho. This is very actually sad when you have trauma victims being taken to hospital still alive, and somebody is saying, "Oh, we can't care for you because you need to get a police report." That, as a doctor, the Hippocratic oath that we took, it's first, do no harm. You see a patient that is dying, and you're not caring for that patient, but it's more of a systemic problem and lack of communication. I don't think the way to quickly fix this is to provide policy and procedures that will guide everybody on how to handle accident patients. You don't need police report to treat trauma patients. This will be communicated to the Inspector General, because what happened is that all these healthcare providers are scared. The police will come and prosecute them. That, oh, you've treated a victim, a fraudster, and then what happened? That's what they're afraid of. But even if you're a fraudster, even if you're a robber, and you're not dead yet, it's your right to live. You can be treated, be rescued, be saved, and then be prosecuted. That's it. You don't say, "Oh, I'm not going to treat you because you're a robber," and then you die. You've taken that ability for that person to live into your hand. That is not acceptable, and that's not the way doctors are trained. First, do no harm. Now, let me quickly answer distinguished Senator Mobo's question about NAFDAC and quacks. That actually fits well into distinguished Senator Yaradua's question. Medical liability. There are lots of quacks there. Why there are quacks is that there's no accountability. I can be a nurse today, open a healthcare shop there, start doing deliveries. Nobody's regulating. All the healthcare facilities are not regulated. In Western world, every single health facility must have a license, a license for you to treat. And that license also has different layers. You can be an outpatient clinic. If you want to add surgical operation to it, you have to apply, and they come to inspect the facility that you have. And you don't even get that license once, and they say, "Oh, you got in license 10 years, bye-bye." You get re-inspected every 1 to 2 years. You have to maintain those standards. We need to build quality regulatory body that will take care of this. Now, with regards to NAFDAC, it's a little bit sad to say it's beyond these fake pharmaceutical drugs coming in. These fake drugs, these drugs are killing our people. A lot of people are developing kidney failure because of drugs, counterfeit drugs. This is causing more morbidity into our society. And it's very unfortunate to say today, NAFDAC is not functioning the way it should be. It's not functioning. And if I'm given that opportunity, that's one of the first agencies that I will totally reform. It's not functioning. NAFDAC is not doing its work. Not doing its work.
At that point, you can see the sincerity of Dr. Alausa. I think just like every other person here, I've also been a victim of medical neglect. My first grandchild in 2019 in a federal medical center died through bleeding. Was having a drip, and he tissued in the night. There was no help, no doctor, no nurse, and he bled until he lost over 60% of his blood. And almost going mental, he struggled and fell on the floor, was looking for water to drink, and he rolled on the floor outside, entered early morning dew, poured the dew all over his body, and then that's where they found him. By that time, he had gone into a coma. I was on my way to Port Harcourt for the 2019 rally. When they called me, I entered the 32-year-old boy. I struggled. They went to go and bring the defibrillator to attempt to revive the heart. It did not work. And I said, how long? They said it stopped working 8 years ago. I used my hand and struggled with my personal physician. I could not revive him. I had to close his eyes and put him in the mortuary. And then I proceeded to Port Harcourt for the rally. He left behind 3 children. Almost every family has suffered from what is going on in our hospitals. The doctor on duty that night had an emergency in his own private clinic, and he had to abandon the hospital to rush to go and attend to private patients in his own private clinic. So if you are coming in, you can see, we can keep you here till 7, 8, because everybody here wants to ask questions, because the Senate is very concerned. Nigerians are very concerned. The same way we are feeling is the way Nigerians are feeling. And the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration must be a corrective regime. It must be a corrective administration to try to, because health is wealth. Health is wealth. There is no way a country can be wealthy when the people are not healthy. So we want to thank you for sparing your time to share your thoughts with us. You ended well by saying that a lot of things are not working, that even NAFDAC is not working, and that if given the opportunity, you get NAFDAC to work. I think on that note, you can take leave of the Senate. Thank you.